Hi guys, today I'll be discussing muscles of the abdominal wall, and they're very straightforward. Can be hard to study their origins, insertions, and stuff like that. And so I will just show you guys those muscles, and then I'll just share with you some extensive notes. Okay, so the external oblique, that's the first one that we're going to talk about. It's the external and oblique, because it takes on an oblique form on its organization in the abdominal anterior wall, and it's in the abdominal because it's in the abdominal region. Okay, so the origin, it originates from the outer surface of the fifth rib to the 12th rib. Okay, from 5th to 12th, and it inserts onto many structures, linea alba. Okay, which is somewhere here, and I think in the middle, right here, linea alba, the pubic crest right here, tubercle. Okay, pubic crest and pubic tubercle, the anterior superior iliac spine and iliac crest, right there. So these are the insertions. So it originates from here and inserts on every part you see otherwise. Action rotates the trunk to the opposite side and bends trunk to the same side. And it aids in expiration by compressing and depressing the lower thoracic cavity. Okay, and the nerve supply is intercostal nerves. All right, so that's the first muscle. Let's see what they say as well about it. You can also, if you want, the arterial supply, the musculophrenic artery. Some also the superior epigastric artery, lumbar arteries. There's much more because it's just a huge muscle. Okay, from the inside as well, that's how it is. That's the external oblique. I'm going to hide this one. Next, we encounter the internal abdominal oblique. So that's just deeper to the external abdominal. And oh, sorry, isolate. So if we isolate it, it's a little bit more complex as well. So it originates deep layer of the thoracolumbar fascia. Thoracolumbar fascia, somewhere here. The anterior 2/3 of the iliac crest, right there. The lateral 2/3 of the inguinal canal. There's an inguinal canal that goes on this region right here. So it originates from here as well. And the iliopsoas fascia. There's a fascia somewhere here as well, but you don't really need to know the iliopsoas fascia. But just know the thoracolumbar fascia, anterior 2/3 of the iliac crest, and lateral 2/3 of the inguinal canal. Okay, so boom until here. So that's the origin. The insertion, lower margins of the 9th to 12th rib. So it will insert on the lower margins of the 9th to 12th. Right here. Okay. And the pubic crest right here. The anterior and posterior layers of the linea alba. So that's the linea alba, all the way this line right here. Action rotates and rotation and lateral flexion of the trunk ipsilaterally, compresses of the abdomen, helps in expiration as well. Okay, and acts antagonistic to the diaphragm. All right, so that's the internal oblique. The nerve supplies by the intercostal nerves of T7, T12, iliohypogastric nerve, and the ilioinguinal nerve. Arterial supply, musculophrenic artery. Okay. Next, We're gonna discuss these. Well, ab muscles, rectus abdominis. These are the ab muscles, and they're situated here. Origin, pubis, and pubic symphysis right here. Insertion, xiphoid process of the sternum and the costal cartilages of the 5th and the 7th ribs. Actions, compression of the abdomen, flexion of the trunk, stabilization of the pelvis. Nerve supply, anterior cutaneous intercostal nerves, T7, T11. Arterial supply by superior epigastric artery, anterior intercostal arteries, and the inferior epigastric artery. So this is the rectus abdominis. So we're gonna hide this. Now we reach the transverse abdominis. Right there. Can be very hard to differentiate between them as they are very similar in their location, but they can differ in very small details. Origin, inner surface of the 7th to 12th rib. Okay, that's the origin. 7th to 12th rib. Or rather the cartilages of the ribs. The deep layer of the thoracolumbar fascia. So in this case, they originate from this as well. Okay. The anterior 2/3 of the iliac crest. There. The lateral one third of the inguinal canal. Insertion is linea alba, this part, and the pecten pubis, somewhere here. Action, rotation, flexion, and lateral flexion of the trunk. Nerve supply, intercostal nerves, T7, T12, the iliogastric nerve, and the ilioinguinal nerve. Arterial supply, musculophrenic artery, and the superior epigastric artery, superior circumflex iliac artery, and the lumbar arteries. So this is the transverse abdominis. Now, if you hide this, we're done basically. And on the other side, the muscles repeat themselves, so they come in pairs. We're just gonna go to the notes that I promised to share with you guys. So this is just a very good summary of everything, with a bit of extra stuff that you don't really need to know. So don't go ham on yourself studying everything here. Rather focus on the things that I discussed earlier. So it gives you the paramedian muscles, 3 anterolateral flat muscles, and I mentioned all of them. There's a table that summarizes what we've talked about. And then it dives individually into the muscles that we discussed. And so there's also, if you want here, the some information about the inguinal canal, inguinal ligament, sorry. And then there is a bit of the internal oblique muscle. The cremasteric muscle is a muscle that surrounds the testis. Some information about if you want. Transverse abdominis right here. There's also some information about the fascias that surround those muscles. And I think it's very important to know those fascias with the muscles because you're gonna be talking about, I forgot the structure, but those layers surround that structure. I really did forget it, but I will, it's sad that I forgot that structure, but it aligns in a way. Oh yes, I really did forget, but it's an interesting structure, and so it's good to know the muscles externally to internally, and then also the fascias that are present externally to internally. So you'd want to name them muscle and fascias and how they're surrounded, layered from external to internal, and what comes first and what comes last, so that you have an idea. Rectus abdominis is here as well. You see rectus sheath, for example, that's a sheath present. Linea alba, some information about the linea alba. What else? Yeah, these are the nerve supply, venous drainages, inguinal canal. This is more than needed, but there's also like actions of the abdominal muscles. But yeah, that's it for this video. I hope this was useful, and I hope those notes help as well. Thank you guys very much. See you guys in the next one.